So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's week 5. Sorry, I just always wanted to do that when I had the camera. Week 5. Our series on Joseph, what to do when you don't know what to do. Joseph found himself in lots of positions where he didn't know what to do. And we have too over the last couple of months. It's been crazy the amount of situations where it's like, well, this is new. And so we're going to round out the story of Joseph today. We're going to bring to a close this little chapter of the story of the Bible. And it's really going to end in a really cool way, a unique way. But first, we have to talk about payback. What kind of payback person are you? And don't say that you don't have a problem with wanting to get revenge. Don't say that it's so easy to forgive everybody for any reason. No one believes you. Okay, what kind of payback person are you? Here's 3 choices. I know which one I am, and I'll explain these to you in just a second. But just look at the words and see if you can know predict which one you are. Public payback, passive payback, pretend payback. What do you think? Public payback. Let's start with public payback. Maybe this is obvious to you, but we're going to detail these a little bit. So public payback is when somebody does something wrong to you and you strike back in the exact same way so that everyone can see. You make an example out of everybody who crosses you. You want everybody to know, hey, look at the last time somebody gossiped about me, I dropped the A-bomb, the mother of all rumors, back onto them, and they regretted it, right? Somebody pranked me. Well, guess what? It's like when somebody pranks you, you don't just do one better, you do like 10 better, right? It's public payback. You need that person to pay in front of everybody so that everybody knows not to mess with you. Public payback. Where's my public payback people at? Give me a thumbs up or something in the comments if you're a public payback person. Okay, how about passive payback? This is a good kind of payback. Passive payback people are kind of like, like that middle child of the family where, you mess with me, you do something wrong to me, and then I'll just kind of like store that away back here in the memory banks. And when you least expect it, I will just sneakily set up a situation in which you will get in trouble and no one will ever suspect me. right? Like, or maybe just passive payback means like passive aggressive payback. I won't really tell a rumor about you if you told one about me. I'll just sort of flirt with your boyfriend a little bit. Like passive payback. You get it, right? Passive payback. It's when it's not a full frontal assault to attack the person back. It's just a kind of a sneaky side route to make their life miserable some other way. A little bit more ingenious, a little bit less blunt force trauma. And then there's the type that I do, which is called pretend payback. Pretend payback is fun because nobody has to know about it. Pretend payback. This is what I do. See if you do this too. It's when you have an imaginary conversation, an imaginary exchange with the person that doesn't really happen. It's just made up in your mind. And so you imagine them saying one thing, and then you're like, ooh, if you did that, then I would do this. And then you would probably have to do that, but I would already know what you're going to do. And I would say this, and then you would be so embarrassed, right? And meanwhile, none of this has happened. It's all in my mind, but I just feel better because I had pretend payback on the person. Sometimes with pretend payback, it can get a little graphic. Like, you ever seen one of those movies or TV shows where the person's getting pretend payback in their mind because they're showing the person just beating the snot out of their enemy, and then all of a sudden it cuts back to reality and they're just smiling at each other and it didn't really happen. That's pretend payback. Are you a pretend payback person? What kind of payback person are you? Are you public? Are you passive? Or are you pretend? There's a lot of ways to get even. And so one of the things that we're bringing this up with Joseph, as some of you already know how this story ends, and so you're a little bit ahead of me, but just bear with me for a second. Maybe you've never heard this story before. So can we get a quick recap of what's happened with Joseph? I mean, if anybody is like primed and ready, poised to have sweet, awesome payback, like super amazing, dramatic revenge, it's Joseph, right? He's ready. Like, he's been through some serious abuse and crap. It's a crazy story. You remember this? Joseph, he started out as his father's favorite son, and he had 11 brothers who were all older than him. So imagine you're the youngest kid, but you're the favorite. You get preferential treatment, and you have 11 older brothers. They're just looking for a chance to beat you up. And Joseph was kind of a punk when he was younger. He started having these dreams where his brothers and his mom and dad were like bowing down to him in his dreams. And he started rubbing it in their face, like, guess what I dreamed, guys? Oh, you were bowing down before me. I'm going to be your boss someday. And so finally the brothers got sick of it, and they decided to kill him. But then at the last second, they were like, you know what? If we kill him, we don't make any money. So we may as well just sell him as a slave. So he gets sold as a slave to a group of foreign people who are on their way to a foreign country. So he gets sold by his family, and they think that he's dead. His dad thinks that he's dead. And he gets sold and moved to a different country. And then he's working as a slave in the house of Potiphar. And there's a little bit of a plus side here. He's like a slave in a foreign country, and his family thinks he's dead, and he's probably doomed to a life of servitude. But there's a little silver lining, right? Because he's in charge of everything in Potiphar's house. Potiphar begins to trust him. And so it's like, oh, is this going to get a little better for Joseph? And then Potiphar's wife accuses him of rape. Right? He goes back downhill because Potiphar believes his wife instead of Joseph. And even though he's innocent, he goes to prison. And now this is a new low for Joseph. He's in prison. And the whole time, if I'm Joseph, I'm sitting in prison, rotting away with a bunch of criminals, knowing that I'm innocent, and I'm thinking about my brothers. I'm thinking about all 11 of these jokers, and I'm picturing them in my mind, and I'm getting pretend payback on them, at least, right? You can't see them in person, so you might as well go ahead and pretend. I'm visualizing them. I'm thinking about the things that I would say to them, the things that I would do if they were here with me in prison. And then finally, last week we talked about how Joseph was able to interpret, remember the dreams? He interpreted the dreams of this baker and the cupbearer who the king of Egypt had thrown into prison with him. And as a result of being able to interpret those dreams, actually Pharaoh 2 years later yanks him out of jail and places him as second in command. He's so impressed with his ability to interpret dreams that he puts him in second in command in all of Egypt. Well, what you may not remember about last week is not only did Joseph interpret the dream that Pharaoh had, but it's actually really important what the dream meant that Pharaoh had. Pharaoh was dreaming. God gave Pharaoh dreams about what was about to happen. He gave him a premonition of the future, and God communicated to Pharaoh through his dream that for the next 7 years there was going to be a bumper crop. It was going to be more food than they could possibly use. But then after that, for 7 more years, there was going to be a severe famine, and there was going to be nothing that would grow. And so Joseph gave some great advice to the Pharaoh. He said, hey, listen, for the next 7 years, let's put some of the grain away. And then during the last 7 years, when there's a severe famine, we'll still have food to eat. And so Pharaoh did that, and he put Joseph in charge of the project. Meanwhile, multiple story plot lines here. Joseph is in charge of saving up all this grain. So they get all the way to the end of the 7 years of plenty, and guess what? It happens just like Joseph said in the dream. All of the surrounding countries, everybody in the area is having trouble just getting enough food to eat. Everybody, including Joseph's family. They come from all the way in Canaan where they lived, all the way to Egypt, because they had heard that there's grain in Egypt for sale, and if they bring enough money, they'll be able to buy some, and they won't starve to death. Can you imagine this? This is a crazy plot twist. All of a sudden, Joseph's over here in Egypt. He's the second in command. He's managing this regional crisis of nobody has any food. Everybody's coming to him, and he has the keys. If he gives them food, they can live. If he doesn't, they will die. And all of a sudden, here comes his 11 brothers from home. And they're on a journey to meet him, and they don't even know that he's there. They think he's dead still. They think he's long gone, and they're on their way unknowingly to meet him. This is bonkers, right? I mean, you can't make a better movie than this. You can't make this stuff up. So the brothers arrive in Egypt. They tell their story to this man that they don't even recognize as their brother. And they're like, hey, we got a family in Canaan. We got an elderly father. And Joseph is there. He's trying to contain himself. Now, if you're Joseph, you're looking at these 11 guys. You're knowing everything about them. You're knowing who they are. But they don't know you. What are you thinking about if you're Joseph in that time? See, the public payback people, right then, if you're a public payback person and you're in Joseph's shoes and your brothers are standing before you, everything in your, like all your pain and all the abuse that you had in the last 20 years since this happened is flowing through your mind, and you're just bubbling up inside. You're like a volcano about to explode on these guys because now you have the power. Now the tables have been turned. Now you're in charge, and it's your time. And your dream came true. These guys are bowing down before you. They're saying, please, please give us enough grain to live. And this is your chance to get public payback on them. All you have to do is say the word, and all these soldiers can come in and kill them on the spot. If you're a public payback person, this is a dream come true for you, right? Actually, if you read the story for yourself in Genesis 44, I think 44, you can see that Joseph is kind of a passive payback person. He does a little weird kind of tactic here as he's wrestling with this. Am I going to get payback on these guys, or am I going to do something different than what was done to me? Am I going to get even by being evil back to these guys who were evil to me? Or am I going to try to stay the course? I've learned to be a man of integrity, and I'm going to stay there. Which one is he going to do? If you read it for yourself, you can find out. I'm going to summarize it for you in just a second. But finally, Joseph comes back around to a different place. And he's able to forgive his brothers for what they did to him, as horrible as it was. And as many things that happened after that, because of that ruined his life, Joseph is able to forgive his brothers. Why is that? Well, it's because of this. My slide will advance. There's a couple things you can do with your pain. When you're hurt, when you're frustrated, when you something is done to you that's not just and it's not fair, and it hurts you, you have a choice. You can try to turn that pain into payback. You can try to take all that bad energy and all that pain and suffering that you did, and you can try to throw it back at your enemy. Or you can try to convert your pain into peace. You can try to make peace with the fact that that was done to me. It's in the past. It doesn't have to control my future. Somehow Joseph was able to have a perspective that allowed him to make peace with his pain. He was able to step back and to see things differently. Here, I'm going to read it a little bit in Genesis 45. So Joseph is standing in front of his brothers. This is the pinnacle of the action, right? They don't know who he is yet, and he hasn't betrayed his identity yet. It says, Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, "Out, all of you." So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. "I am Joseph," he said to his brothers. "Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing in front of them. "Please come closer," he said to them. So they came closer, probably very slowly and carefully. And he said again, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of all Egypt." How crazy is this? That Joseph is able to step back and to see this whole situation from God's point of view. He's able to zoom out, look at the big picture, and understand that even though his brothers were trying to harm him, they were trying to ruin his life, that God was with him the entire time, weaving his purpose into Joseph's pain so that he arrived at exactly the right place at exactly the right time to save everyone. And not only to save everyone, get this, Joseph and his brothers would go on to become the people of Israel, the Jewish nation. They would go on to become the people of God. And if there is no Israelites, if there's no Jewish nation, there's no Jesus. And if there's no Jesus, I'm not here preaching to you. There's no Bible, there's no church, there's no nothing. If Joseph hadn't hung on to God's purpose through his pain and trusted that God was with him, even though bad things were happening to him, we wouldn't be here talking about this. Joseph changed the course of human history simply by staying in the saddle long enough to see what God would do. And that's why we're talking about this right now. In this situation that we're in, it's just a perfect example. Because when we live our lives, it's not always as extreme as Joseph's situation, but we can see some of the similarities, right? Joseph started out on top. He was his dad's favorite. He got everything he wanted. Life was good, right? And then it went downhill. started to be painful. His brother sold him into slavery, and he had to go to a foreign nation. And his dad thought he was dead. But then he got the respect of his master, and his master put him in charge of a lot of stuff, and he actually had a pretty good job as slaves go, right? But then he had to go to jail because he was accused of a crime that he didn't commit. And it's like, good things happen, and bad things happen, and good things happen, and bad things happen, and painful things happen, and great things happen. And it's like all of this stuff, God is always with Joseph. No matter if he's on the up and up or if he's tanking, God is with him. God is working in his life, bringing him, positioning him so that he can be in the right place at the right time to do what God wants to do in history. What I want to ask you, is it possible that God could be doing the exact same thing right now? Is it possible that he could be doing the same thing in your life, in my life? Is it possible that even though he didn't cause the pandemic, maybe he can use it? Even though he doesn't want everyone to suffer, maybe he can use our pain to position us for a purpose. Maybe he can help us convert our pain into peace. Maybe he can help us let go and forgive. Just like he did with Joseph. Here's what I want you to understand. Chances are, unless the world ends a lot earlier than any of us are expecting, this is the beginning of your journey. This is chapter 1 of you and your life. To compare your life to Joseph's life, you're still at home. Things are still okay. You're getting started. And maybe for some of you, it's already begun to take a turn for the worse. Maybe some of you are still riding high and feeling like you're the favorite. Everything's going great. But guess what? If you keep on living in this world, it's going to be just like it was for Joseph. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. One time you're going to be on top, and the next time you're going to be on the bottom. And there's no predicting or controlling that. And I think because of this virus and this pandemic, we're uniquely positioned to understand that in a way that generations before us haven't. The question is, will we try to get payback? Well, there's really no one to take revenge on. I mean, some people are making up people to take revenge on. Let's blame it on the president. Let's blame it on the governor. Let's blame it on that one doctor who's always on TV. Let's blame it on, it's a global conspiracy that the Illuminati made up. We're just pulling people out of our pockets trying to find somebody to blame. That's payback, right? Can we just be honest? That's trying to take our pain and pay it back. I'm going to take it off of me and throw it onto somebody else, and that way I won't have to hurt anymore. Does that really work? I mean, look around at the people that are on Facebook yelling at everybody. Look around at the people who are angry and critical of everybody and everything right now. Are they living their best life? Do they look happy? Do they look fulfilled? Do they look like they're at peace with what God's trying to do in their life? I don't think so. When you try to get payback, the sacrifice you make is peace. You never live at peace. Because guess what? When you try to get payback on somebody else, chances are they're going to try to pay you back. And once they do that, then you got to pay them back even harder. And then they've got to pay you back even harder. And you're always looking over your shoulder, always ready to defend yourself against the latest payback. That's not a life I want to live. Is it a life you want to live? When you look at the story of Joseph, Joseph had a choice. He was able to choose peace. He was able to choose forgiveness. He was able to let it go and not pretend like he had any control along the way. He was able to zoom out and realize that God was at work within that pain, and it was all for a purpose, and that he was realizing that purpose right in front of his face. And so that's the challenge, that's the dare for you. just like Joseph was able to do to pursue peace, not payback. Will you do that? When you pursue peace and not payback, here's what happens. Oops, I don't have a slide for that. When you pursue peace instead of payback, you fight for the relationship. Maybe there's somebody in your life right now, you've been cooped up at home, and you're getting on each other's last nerve, and there needs to be some forgiveness. When you pursue peace instead of payback, you fight for the relationship with that person. And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because if you forgive them, if you pursue peace, it feels like you're just letting them get away with it. Just letting them get away with something that they did wrong to you. And if you let them get away with it, they're probably going to do it again. So you have to stop them, right? But listen, when we pursue peace, we fight for the relationship. We show the person, you are more important to me than me trying to make you hurt the same way you made me hurt. I would rather have a relationship with you than have payback. Man, that's power. Isn't that what Jesus did on the cross? He was hanging there, and one of his final words were, God, forgive these people who are killing me because they don't understand what they're doing. And then when he was resurrected, it's not like he went on a revenge tour after he came back from the dead. Wouldn't that be the time? If you were going to get revenge, if you were going to get payback, and you're Jesus, if you died and then you come back to life, you're like, all right, it's on now. Like, you couldn't keep me dead, so now I'm gonna really let you have it. No, Jesus came back and he was the exact same way as before he died, trying to help people understand how to have a real relationship with God. If you pursue peace, you fight for the relationship like Jesus did. One thing that we say we value at New Covenant Student Ministries is authenticity, and that means that we're going to always be real, not always right. We're going to let go of always trying to be right. We're going to let that go because we know that we can't do it, and we know that people are going to see through it if we try. And instead, we're going to have a value on relationships. We're going to fight for the heart of people like Jesus did. And when you pursue peace, you fight for the relationship. And when you pursue peace, you lay down your right to get payback. You give up, you let go of the right that you feel like you have to hurt that person the same way that they hurt you. You give up the opportunity. You say, you know what? I'm not going to wait until you're sorry. I'm not going to pretend like I can get even with you. Because guess what? You can try to get payback, but it's never going to make you feel better. It's never going to erase the pain of your past. No. Pain's going to be there when you wake up the next morning. But if there's a way, with God's help, like Joseph did, that you can offer your pain to him, he can convert that into peace in your life. And even though it happened, and it's never going to unhappen, even though there might be consequences of that pain in the future, it won't control you. It won't consume you. You'll be able to make peace with it, like Joseph did. And so as we head out for the day, I want us to think about that. Where in my life am I reacting in anger? Am I trying to get payback? Now, there's a lot to be angry about right now, right? There's a lot to be frustrated with. Are we looking for somebody to blame so that we can get payback on them? Or are we able to realize that even though something bad has happened to us, God can still use it to do what he's trying to do? And we get to be a part of that. If we make peace with this pain by offering it to God, he can show us what he is doing in and through difficult circumstances. And so, this has been what to do when you don't know what to do. It's been a great 5-week journey through the life of Joseph. Thank you for joining us with this. I want you to know that next week on Sunday night, we're taking a break from what we usually do right here with our worship and our teaching. We're taking a break to honor seniors. And so you can come back to our YouTube channel or to the church website on the Student Ministries online services page. And you can view the senior service if you want to. Some of you guys, seniors, have already decided to attend, and I thank you for that. You're going to not regret it. It's going to be super fun and meaningful for you and your parents and families. But for the rest of us, you can have the night off at 5 o'clock. You can just connect with your small group without any teaching or worship. It's up to you. But we're going to be taking a break from worship and teaching next Sunday in order to do Senior Sunday, honor high school seniors and graduates. And so I will be seeing you in 2 weeks. And until then, God bless you. Let's go to small groups. And if you need help getting into a small group, I'm just going to display a slide right here. It's got my phone number on it. You can text me and I will assist you connect with a small group. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Peace out.